Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our live stream where we discuss the actual news. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for adding your voice to our conversation. If you have recently joined my X account or YouTube or any other social media, very welcome. Please feel welcome to comment and ask questions as I go through the actual news. We have bunch of news to cover today because everybody was busy and didn't do it. Okay, so we're going to discuss the facts. I'm going to also add my opinion. So if you disagree with anything I say and you want to express your opinion, you're welcome to do it. If something that I say contradicts your facts, please provide any source that I can explore and then stay corrected. So thank you once again for joining me. I know you are just finishing the campaign call with Kamala Harris, probably. You watched her speech at the event in Atlanta that welcomed over 180,000 people. We're going to discuss how they all lined up. Also, I'm going to feature some quotes from her speech, and we're going to go ahead and do it. Okay. But first, let's take it from yesterday night. So I want to first talk about the president of the United States, our President Biden, who yesterday traveled to Texas. So in Austin, Texas, he spoke at the LBJ Library. Of course, he was marking the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act signing. Being signed, and but then he also added more on the reforms that he is aiming to pass during this 6 month while he's still in office, reforming the Supreme Court. And so first, let's watch a short video of him announcing the reforms and how actually he came to it, and then we discuss further. Okay, so let's watch our first video.
I have great respect for our institutions and the separation of powers laid out in our Constitution. But what's happening now is not consistent with that doctrine of separation of powers. Extremism is undermining the public confidence in the court's decisions. As soon as I came to office, I convened a bipartisan presidential commission on the Supreme Court of the United States, comprised of leading constitutional scholars, both liberal and conservative, to provide recommendations on potential reforms to the court. I've been careful in these deliberations because these are serious decisions. In the face of increasing threats to American democratic institutions, I used the Commission's analysis, and today I'm calling for 3 bold reforms to restore trust and accountability to the court and our democracy. As the press shouted to me as I got off Air Force One, the Republican Speaker of the House said, "Whatever he proposes is dead on arrival." Well, I think his thinking is dead on arrival.
So mind you, he said, I think his thinking is dead on arrival. Of course, to remind you, those 3 reforms are: first, no immunity. So no kings, no queens, nobody above the law, as President mentioned in his op-ed in Washington Post yesterday, that people rule in the United States. Hence, it is a democracy. Demos kratos, people rule. Second was the limits, term limits for Supreme Court justices that would be appointed every 2 years with 18 years in service. And then third, ethics code. So in case any judge or justice that is being considered or is already on the court is receiving gifts from any entity, any foreign entity, any business, or anybody who would be interested in a certain ruling going their way, right, has to disclose it and then would be disqualified. So those 3 rules are bold. And now let's pay attention to this comment, right? Because that really sort of zhuzhed everybody up today and in Congress, as well as in White House press briefing that I'm covering. And so let's check out the video where reporters asked whether President Biden, threatened Mike Johnson. What does it mean to be dead on arrival? Meanwhile, he said his thinking is dead on arrival. Take a look.
And talked about how his idea basically was dead on arrival. The speaker's idea. He actually talked about it, and he said what the speaker, he reiterated what the speaker said about the SCOTUS reforms announcement, and then he said that his idea was dead on arrival. So I would just refer you to the president himself and how he addressed this directly.
And I saw some comments. Is Biden threatening Johnson? No, he said his thinking is dead on arrival. Also to remind you that yesterday, when President was traveling, he also had brief interaction with the press pool where he said, to the question whether he will succeed passing the reform, since the Senate and Congress both would not be interested in passing those reforms, he said, "We will find a way." To my point, I think it would be quite ironic if he used his immunity to cancel out the immunity for former future presidents. I think that would be really cool, really ironic, really playing chess than checkers. But Mitch McConnell was really displeased with those reforms, and he referred to that as dismantling and canceling out Supreme Court. Take a listen.
They decided the time has come to eliminate the Supreme Court as we know it. In his op-ed, the president says he wants term limits as on justices. Never mind what the Constitution says. Never mind the advice and consent role of the Senate. President Biden and his leftist allies don't like the current composition of the court, so they want to shred the Constitution to change it. He wants what he calls an ethics code, because that already exists. What the president is actually proposing is a stealth process for people other than the justices to decide cases. Again,
where are those term limits when you need them? But in good news, also White House announced the following. Take a listen.
The Senate took a major bipartisan step forward in making our kids safer online as our nation grapples with an unprecedented youth mental health crisis. There is undeniable evidence that social media and other online platforms have contributed to it. As the president said today in his statement, our children are subjected to a wild west online with virtually no limits of regulation, and it's past time to address that. It's exactly why he has made tackling the mental health crisis a key priority of this unity agenda for the nation. It's an issue that cuts across politics and affects red states and blue states, and it's why the administration has invested historic resources, launched new tools to ensure people can get the help they need, and has consistently called on Congress to work together in a bipartisan way on solutions. This bill does what the president called for in his first State of the Union address. It strengthens privacy protections, bans targeted advertising to children, and demands tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children.
And so President stated that current laws are outdated, and it's been quite a while since Congress has updated the safety rules for online activities. So given AI, given everything that is happening now, kids are unprotected. Also, we're not following the data and where is it going and who has access to it. So the details are featured in tonight's newsletter, so you can tune in and read it. By the way, it's free. So onest.substack.com, you get your news every night into your mailbox, all the actual news that I'm discussing here and way more. So the details are featured there, but altogether, Senate made a good thing. They approved a bill that is set to change the online regulations. And of course, the bill now needs to pass the House and reach the president for final approval, which obviously will follow. Now, Olympics. If you may recall, the opening of the Olympic Games, now I'm not going to show you any clips because we're going to get banned here right away. Already tested it the first opening night. But the big made-up controversy about allegedly the Last Supper being the thing at the Olympics. Of course, we're talking about this part where during the Olympics, the creative director thought it would be interesting to play homage to either Last Supper or any other artistic work, let's put it this way. Because I'm going to also read out what the creator meant by it and what their statement says. But first, this thing even made it to the White House press briefing. So Listen.
Look, the president and the first lady are certainly proudly cheering on Team USA. As you saw, the first lady travel to, bless you, travel to Paris to lead the delegation, the U.S. delegation for the opening ceremonies, and cheered on Team USA. And you saw her out there being very supportive. And so the president certainly is proud of all the athletes competing on behalf of the U.S., on behalf of our nation, and he's going to continue to cheer them on.
Corinne, following up on that, did the president see the Last Supper controversy at the Olympics? Do you know? Did he see
I don't have anything.
The Last
I
Supper
appreciate the
controversy?
question. I just don't have anything to share.
Millions of Christians across the globe were offended by it. The president's a Christian. Was he offended by it? But was the president offended by it?
I just answered your question.
Can I just ask him? Did he see it?
I don't have anything else to add.
Did he see it?
And it wasn't enough for Mike Johnson either. The White House has had every opportunity to condemn the Olympics' shameful mockery of the Last Supper, but they refused to do it. Their silence should be taken as an endorsement. The more than 200 million Christians in America should take note. Well, first of all, let's doubt that it was Last Supper that was, the idea behind it. I don't want to toot any other ideas because I'm not speaking on behalf of the Olympic Committee and the Paris organizers and those who produced this opening ceremony. Okay, but first and foremost, this is the speaker. Karine Jean-Pierre is the press speaker for the White House. Separation, church and state. Yeah, so they shouldn't be talking, first of all, about any religious issues unless it is the big issue within United States. It's not affecting United States directly. Also, talk to Olympic Committee, talk to the organizers of the Olympic Games. Why bringing this up during the White House press briefing where she literally cannot say anything to you? Now, who can say something? Here, the ceremony's artistic director, Thomas Joly, had distanced his scene from any Last Supper parallels after the ceremony, saying it was meant to celebrate diversity and pay tribute to feasting and French gastronomy. Paris 2024 spokesperson Anne Decamp was asked about the outcry during an International Olympic Committee news conference on Sunday. So it is up to you to decide what actually provoked it. Honestly, for me, I don't see the Last Supper here. They're referring to something else. Bunch of you have mentioned other ideas and other works. Again, I don't want to, this is not a fact, hence I don't want to state that as official version, but it is really up to you whether you state that. But honestly, this hasn't been in the United States. It's in Paris. It's Olympic Games. They do their thing, whether you like it or not. Be tuning in, you're not tuning in. 30 million people tuned in, which is 65% more than previous years. Whether everybody hated everything, whether I liked everything, no, I did not. But I'm old school, so I'm also not the one to judge. It's not my my area to speak about anything like that. So let's talk about our VP. She is in Atlanta. She's now leaving Atlanta, and she hosted the rally, and the biggest rally up to this moment. And honestly, 180,000 people gathered. First, let's take a look as everybody was building a line, literally, to enter the arena. Take a look.
Oh, let me get some. That's a little insider knowledge there for you.
And so here, Chris Mowry, whom you should follow, he is part of the Gen Z tour to save democracy. They're touring in a bus all across the battleground states, knocking on doors, talking to people, and also streaming on TikTok. So Chris says doors still have not opened here in Atlanta for the Kamala Harris rally. This is just early admission, 10K is the capacity, 20K people have showed up to try and be let in. The energy is unbelievable. And then it resulted into this. And I do have a video of the crowd. Take a look. As somebody somebody who has reported on a bunch of NBA games, I have to double check where that comment with 180,000 came by, because I rather believe, Chris, that 20K is the thing, because that kind of looks like an NBA game during playoffs. But amazing, right? And so here are some quotes. By the way, first, Vice President was leaving DC, and she was asked whether she already had picked her VP, and she says, not yet. So anything you see or read today is bogus, because she said, not yet. That's the official version that we're staying with. And so then she landed in Atlanta. And given that today Israel has conducted a strike against Hezbollah in Lebanon, she mentioned that I want to address what happened over the last few hours in terms of the Middle East and be very clear. Israel has a right to defend itself. And I unequivocally support Israel's right to remain secure and to defend the security of Israel. What we know in particular is it has the right to defend itself against terrorist organization, which is exactly what Hezbollah is. But all of that being said, we still must work on a diplomatic solution to end these attacks, and we will continue to do that work. Thank you. So upon arrival, she was greeted by Atlanta Mayor Dickens, Chairman Pitts, Fulton County Board of Commissioners, and Chairman Jeffrey Turner, Clayton County Board of Commissioners. So she was greeted by a bunch of people. I always tweeted in real time. By the way, all the news I tweet are in real time. The news are there. I tweeted right away. So if you don't follow on X, please follow Onest Press. And there is no news cycle. I just go ahead and share it with you. So some of the quotes from today's rally. She has mentioned, I am very clear the path to the White House runs right through this state. We did it in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. She noted her resume as a prosecutor, district attorney, and attorney general of California. She says, in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds, predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. To hear me. So hear me when I say I know Donald Trump's type, and I have been dealing with people like him my entire career. Lock him up, the crowd demanded, their feet pounding on the bleachers. So I'm going to share more again in my tweets, but you see the atmosphere, and it's just July. Can you imagine? We even haven't had the DNC yet, the Democratic National Commission. We haven't had it yet. She's not official nominee yet-ish, right? We don't have a VP yet, and so many people are showing support. Where? In Georgia. So if you need a little pick-me-up, I think that's it. So also, let's talk about VP support. Yesterday, a bunch of you have joined, a bunch of you have heard, maybe all of you have heard about the white dudes for Kamala Harris. And so the meeting was very successful, very well organized, and wrong. And so the organizers shared that they welcomed 150,000 people that joined the cause. 190,000 people turned in tonight to the live stream, and $4+ million were raised for Kamala Harris' campaign. This is the start of something special, and we couldn't be more proud to be in this fight with you. And then what happens? X blocks their account, allegedly violating our rules against evading suspension. So what they're hinted that one of those who is running the account has been suspended and used this account to be again on X, or Twitter as we call it. So, but then they were unsuspended. They are allegedly in the read mode. I'm not sure if they're posting yet. I hope they are, and I hope they do. Certainly a really, really cool event. And there were so many congressmen, senators, governors, cabinet secretaries, vice presidential hopefuls, and an impressive squad of celebrity activists, who joined the call. I shared a video of Josh Groban, and it was just amazing energy. And the most fun thing was that there were not just white dudes. There were some other, cultures represented who wanted to encourage this specific demographic to stand by Kamala Harris and support her and get her elected to be the new president of the United States. So, but who didn't like any of it? Fox News. Now, I want you to get ready because this video is the video of the night. You need to listen carefully. Because you don't want to miss a thing here. This is something that never would come up in your head, I hope. Listen to it.
Now, I don't see why any man would vote Democrat. It's not the party of virtue, security. It's not the party of strength. It's definitely not the party of family. And to be a man and then vote for a woman just because she's a woman is either childish, that person has mommy issues, or they're just trying to be accepted by other women. And I heard the scientists say the other day that when a man votes for a woman, he actually transitions into a woman.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what the science says. Yes.
When a man votes for a woman, he transitions into a woman. What scientist told you that? Is that Jackson guy, the doctor that lost his license, that also thinks that Trump is the top 10% of the healthiest people in his age group, and that he was struck by a bullet and he allegedly lost half of his ear, even though we see it? Is that the guy? Is that the scientist? To cleanse the palate, Team Harris today launched 2 ads, one in the morning, one just now in the evening. They invested $50 million towards this paid campaign. The ad will play on television during, let's say, The Simpsons and Tonight Show and a bunch of other programming, as much as also during the Olympics and as well as the DNC. So this is all targeting the DNC that will be in August and just a week and some. Yeah, exactly. 2 weeks. Yeah, less than 2 weeks. In August in Chicago. So let's watch those ads because those are really entertaining. I think very well done and do address the major issues. So first one is called. This really all about Kamala Harris being fearless. So take a look.
The one thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks and won $20 billion for homeowners. And as vice president, she took on the big drug companies to cap the cost of insulin for seniors. Because Kamala Harris has always known who she represents.
This campaign is about who we fight for. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Where every senior can retire with dignity. But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward, to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and end the Affordable Care Act. But we are not going back. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Kind of like this very last sentence. I'm Kamala Harris and I approve this message. I was waiting for this one because previous ads didn't have it. Now, the second ad is all about the southern border. As you may recall, Congress refused to vote on this bipartisan bill because Donald Trump said, just don't do it. I want to count that to my first achievement in office. And so then President Biden issued the executive order on which he worked together with Vice President Harris. And so since then, the illegal border crossings have dropped more than 50%, actually around 55% now, and are below the number that was during the Trump's presidency when he was leaving. So the second ad is all about the southern border because you may recall Trump's campaign and RNC are calling Kamala Harris the border czar and that she failed. And just listen to the facts.
Border? The choice is simple. Kamala Harris supports increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. Donald Trump blocked a bill to increase the number of Border Patrol agents. Kamala Harris supports investing in new technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Donald Trump blocked funding for technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Kamala Harris supports spending more money to stop human traffickers. Donald Trump blocked money to stop human traffickers. Kamala Harris prosecuted transnational gang members and got them sentenced to prison. Trump is trying to avoid being sentenced to prison. There's two choices in this election: the one who will fix our broken immigration system, and the one who's trying to stop her.
And the one who's trying to stop her. By the way, I think Pete Buttigieg is still considered to be a VP. Certainly, I think he's a great candidate. So, as you know, Today's Show and Jon Stewart have been not that pleased, right, with the Democratic Party, not showing direct support, making weird jokes, also advocating for Kamala Harris by saying that, somehow we are anti-Jew. They're just weird. So what I was pleased to see is the way Pete Buttigieg was received when he was, as a guest, welcomed to the show. Not the interview part, just listen to the welcome.
Please welcome to the program, Pete Buttigieg. Tell you something about this. So, they're going crazy. Let me tell the story. That is all the time we have.
Great.
Madam Vice President, hope you're watching. Now, MAGA is not satisfied with our VP and potential president. What has been really publicated everywhere now. They're recalling 2019 OPAD, where the father, Terry McAteer, recounted the horror stories from his son Gregory's short time as a public policy intern in Harris's Attorney General's office. He said Senator Harris vocally throws around F-bombs and other profanity constantly. I don't think it's a big fucking deal. We all do, okay? So I just throw one. But in other weird news, so as you maybe have seen, I hope you didn't, but there was a video. I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want to use it. I don't want to spread it. It's nonsense. So remember the very first ad that Team Harris has released, right? So this video was taken, and then AI has used Kamala Harris' voice to reproduce a voiceover that was completely fabricated. It was really lying as to, I've been a candidate because of DEI, and President Biden is, sick and everything, right? So all this lies. And then this video went viral because the owner of the platform X has shared it. And so certainly that made all the rounds and all the news. I think it should be reported to FEC and DOJ because she is current vice president, and she is almost, close to being the official nominee for president. How can we use AI? Where do we stop? Where is the limit here? Because this is confusing, and this has reached hundreds of millions of people. And so Governor Newsom, who has been very much a big supporter of Kamala Harris, both President Biden and Kamala Harris, and especially now being on campaign trail and advocating for her, he said that manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. So he did address this issue, and we hope that this will be pulled off the air and off acts, because that is really making rounds, and even internationally people are reaching out to me and saying, is that true? What is that? Like, no, please don't consume it. So if you ever see, just say not interested, block it, don't watch it. The more you watch it, the more it will be shown to a like audience, meaning somebody of who shares the interests with you. Okay, so but as the liberal side has been calling the mega side weird for the last few days, and I mentioned yesterday I'm not a fan of it because I think weird people are actually gorgeous and glorious and artistic, right? And in some ways I consider myself weird, but okay, that sticks with MAGA, and it stinks for MAGA. So much so that the owner of the Platform X said weird is being used as a slur against Trump supporters, and it will not be tolerated on this platform. Trump supporters should not be facing ridicule for their beliefs. Any harassment of Trump supporters using the term weird will be punished. So now we are punishing words. We arrived, ladies and gentlemen. We are punishing words. But spreading AI, fabricated videos that are completely spreading nonsense about the current, very well achieved administration is allegedly okay. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you saw the video. That would be a really cool thing to say. Now, speaking of weird, and speaking of something that has to be banned and punished for, is tonight Donald Trump went on an interview. It was a radio interview with somebody. And Trump repeated his attack on Jewish Americans voting for Democrats. He's then agreed with the interviewer that Doug Emhoff, our second gentleman, the husband of Kamala Harris, is a crappy Jew and a horrible Jew. So, speaking of crappy, can I read you what crappy is? Crappy is Donald Trump's failed record of losing 3 million jobs. Also crappy is his abortion bans, his lies, insults, hatred, chaos, and Project 2025 agenda that he is trying to denounce. Crappy is also his praise for dictators, his economic agenda to raise taxes on the middle class, his vow to cut Social Security and Medicare. By the way, today is the anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid. His plan to repeal the Affordable Care Act, his call to terminate the Constitution, pretty crappy, isn't it? His plan to defund law enforcement, his 34 felony convictions, I think it's pretty crappy too. His call to be a dictator on day one, he's telling families of gun violence to get over it. I think it's pretty crappy. And now let's talk about horrible, because he said horrible Jews. So now what's horrible is Donald Trump's long history of attacking Jewish Americans. Shall we recall? Trump has reportedly said Adolf Hitler did some good things. Trump denied at Mar-a-Lago with white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Fuentes previously said perfidious Jews should be executed. Trump praised some of the neo-Nazi marchers in Charlottesville who chanted, "Jews will not replace us," as very fine people. Pretty horrible. Trump, during Rosh Hashanah, attacked Jews who did not support him as wanting to destroy America. Trump shared an anti-Semitic meme suggesting his opponent was controlled by Jews and their money. Trump has repeatedly endorsed a racist anti-Semitic conspiracy theory pushed by neo-Nazis against Jews and immigrants. Think about those lasers. Trump engages in anti-Semitic tropes all the time. Trump shared video dreaming of a unified Reich if he wins. Pretty horrible. Now, the Team Harris spokesperson, of course, issued a statement to Trump's appearance on the radio. She says, America is better than the fear, hate, and despicable insults of Donald Trump. Vice President Harris believes Americans want a president who unites our country instead of dividing it, uses the power of presidency to help families instead of hurting them, and has a vision for our future instead of taking us backwards. So, but now let's talk more about Trump, shall we? Because it's so fun. Trump is invited tomorrow to a press conference. And it would be really difficult for anybody to guesstimate what kind of conference that would be. So the conference it's a convention. It's a National Association of Black Journalists convention that previously invited President Biden and now switched their invite to Kamala Harris, who has not confirmed her appearance yet. This convention is going from 31st of July to August 4th. And Trump's campaign and NABJ, which is the abbreviation of National Association of Black Journalists, they both said that he will be participating in a Q&A with political journalists in front of an audience of convention attendees. This talk will concentrate on the most pressing issues facing the Black community. It will happen at noon on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. So if you're eager, they're streaming online, go watch it. I'll cover it. You make me cover it. I'll do it. ABC News senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott and will moderate this event with Harris Faulkner, who is also a co-host of Outnumbered on Fox News, and Semaphore political reporter Kadia Gaba. Now, Semaphore, I shared it with you many, many times. Stay aware. It's Russian propaganda. It's not even anything else. It's Russian propaganda. Now, an ABJ said Vice President Kamala Harris was also invited to participate at this year's convention, and her confirmation is pending. The White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked why President Biden is no longer invited or appearing. She referred to the Harris campaign to talk about it. She said, well, my guesstimation is because he's no longer running, but Trump is indeed invited. Now, the reactions did come in, and not so glorious. So, for instance, Karen Ataya, who is the co-chair from this year's NABJ 24 convention, she has decided to step down. She said to the journalist interviewing Trump, I wish you the best of luck. For everyone else, I'm looking forward to meeting and reconnecting with all of you in Windy City. Now, I want to use this fabulous occasion to show you just 47 seconds compilation of former President Trump attacking Black journalists. Take a look.
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying
I don't know why you'd say that. It's such a racist
there
question.
Are some people.
The same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic
Well, I would.
Caucus?
I tell you what. Do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
I'm just a reporter.
So he tweeted this late on Friday night. He said, LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. I like Mike.
So, you know, of course, the convention and National Association of Black Journalists knows better. This was just my contribution to ask why. Again, I'll cover the conversation tomorrow, and let's hope it will feature a bit more than a typical rally and Hannibal Lecter and all this greatest hits of the rallies. Let's hope he talks how he's planning to bring equality and justice and be fair to all journalists who will be potentially covering his presidency. What I can say is his press office is not answering emails to the journalists. It's only handpicked few that are attending his rallies and, mainly cameras, maybe CNN, ABC, CBS, whoever wants to cover the rally, the video reporters are there. But if print journalists would be let in, I certainly would let you know. Now, Trump sat down with Fox News, naturally, and he talked about everything. And so the talk then began more about the assassination attempt and how did his wife, Melania, react to it. So he shared that, and then he shared a weird phrase. Maybe you can catch it. Take a listen.
What was Melania's reaction, if you don't mind my asking? I know this is very personal, when she learned about what happened on that field in Butler.
She was watching.
Oh, she was watching in real time?
She was watching live. It was all over the place. It was on television. It was on your network, but it was all over the place. And she was watching. I asked her that. I mean, I wasn't there. I was on the ground. And when the world started to, like, you could talk to people, I said, so what was your feeling? And she can't really even talk about it.
Traumatized.
Which is okay, because that means she likes me.
No, she loves me.
That's
good.
I mean, let's say she could talk about it freely. That wouldn't be. I'm not so sure which is better. But she either likes or loves me, and that's nice. But
she either likes or loves me, and that's nice. Okay. Well, that's a happy life. Now, Trump is pissed at the ads. So he's saying, quote, why is Fox News putting on crazy Kamala Harris rallies? Why do they allow the perverts at the failed and disgraced Lincoln Project to advertise on Fox News? Even Mr. Kellyanne Conway, George Conway, a man so badly hurt and humiliated by his wife, she must have done some really nasty things to him because he is crazy, is advertising on Fox News. We have to win without Fox. And he's referring to this ad. So as you may have heard, I covered it earlier, Conway, the father, the husband, launched Anti-Psychopath PAC, where he invested money. And so this is the ad that's getting in Trump's head. It's running right now in Palm Beach and Bedminster, exactly where Trump is watching television. And as you know, he's constantly watching television. So are you curious to see what that ad looks like? I hope you're ready. Let's watch it.
Donald Trump has never, ever been right in the head.
the late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. An enormous, really an enormous. And then they announced there was no buys, no. Take a look at the oranges of the investigation. Venezuela, if you have a windmill anywhere near your house, they say the noise causes cancer.
I don't know what I said.
All criminal. They have voter ID. They have ID on everything. You buy a loaf of bread, you have ID. The first non-incumbent. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple. Injection inside or almost a cleaner. That an illegal ad?
Learn more at psychopac.org. Anti-Psychopath PAC Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, can you imagine he's watching television, that's all he sees? Deservingly pissed, but it's a good ad, it's effective. Now, Trump's advertisement is still targeting Biden. So, you see here, it's paid. That's a snapshot from today. Unlike Biden, I will never give up. I will never quit. I will never surrender. Honey, are you riding with Biden? Like, what are you doing? Why are you still targeting Biden? Biden's not targeting you, certainly. Biden turned into full mode Dark Brandon. If you follow any of my tweets, you certainly read them. If you read your newsletters, you read the Dark Brandon quotes. I'm for it. I'm here for this Dark Brandon era. So now let's talk about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was on some podcast, and he talked again about people with no children. And then Trump defended him. So let's talk, let's listen to what J.D. Vance has to say to all the childless people, and he even gives like medical diagnosis here.
Right, there's just these basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really, really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives, you know, I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less less mentally stable. And of course, you talk about going on Twitter. Final point I'll make is you go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
Why does he look like he's currently touring with the Queen? With the Ensemble Queen, my favorite group. What is with the eyeliner? Maybelline, honey. Okay, now Trump on Fox News, again, same interview that we just saw the clip from about Melania liking, loving him, which is nice. He was asked to still defend his choice in his VP. Take a listen.
What can you say to our viewers tonight to reassure them that this was an excellent pick?
Well, first of all, he's got tremendous support. And he really does among a certain group of people that like families. I mean, he made a statement having to do with families. That doesn't mean that people that aren't a member of a big and beautiful family with 400 children around and everything else, it doesn't mean that a person doesn't have, he's not against anything, but he loves family. It's very important to him. He grew up in a very interesting family situation, and he feels family is good. And I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that.
400 different children? What are you referring to? Also, his family situation that he grew up in, which you call interesting. Why you don't apply the same term to Hunter Biden? Because he had the same problem, same issue as J.D. Vance's mother. So why are we calling this interesting and we're prosecuting Hunter Biden and talking about it nonstop? Now, Fred Trump III, the brother Fred, now that's the third, wrote a book, and he defined his uncle as, quote, atomic crazy. Take a listen.
Trump way. Complex and sometimes cruel. And within every family, people know this, families are complicated. Every family has their crazy uncle. My Uncle Donald is atomic crazy. And he has put his mark on the family history.
Atomic crazy?
Yes.
What's that mean?
Means he does things that, even as much as I know him, when he's out there now, I sort of shudder and say, is this the same guy I knew? What's making him change? What got him this way?
Ego got him this way. But Project 2025, Trump is trying their best, and his entire campaign is trying their best to distance themselves from Project 2025. Why? Because we all found out about it. Because we paid attention and read 920 pages and started talking about it. So yes, it is not profitable anymore. So in today's news, Paul Dance, director of Project 2025, stepped down today. His departure was confirmed in a statement to CNN by Dr. Kevin Roberts, whose clip I shared yesterday about the fight. So he is the president of Heritage Foundation that is responsible for Project 2025. He said, quote, under Paul Dance's leadership, Project 2025 has completed exactly what is set out to do, bringing together over 110 leading conservative organizations to create a unified conservative vision, motivated to devolve power from unelected administrative state and returning it to the people, Roberts said. This tool was built for any future administration to use. And mega statement, of course, they sent an email right away. And they said President Trump's campaign has been very clear for over a year that Project 2025 had nothing to do with the campaign, did not speak for the campaign, and should not be associated with the campaign. And then they start threatening people. So they said that anyone or any group trying to misrepresent their influence with President Trump and his campaign, it will not end well for you. Don't believe the lies. Here's a fact. At least 140 people from former President Trump's administration worked on Project 2025. Also, Trump spoke at the Heritage Foundation event. I shared a clip. I can share it again, showing his admiration and approval of Project 2025. He said at that time, we're working on it, and this will be the greatest thing ever. So Project 2025 is meant to take on the U.S. Constitution. It's literally taking rights away from women, reproductive rights. It bans abortion, IVF treatment. It dismantles entire institutions like Department of Education, FDA. It's nonsense. And please don't separate it from the Trump's campaign, because now they realize that is hurting them, because people started reading. They were thinking people won't read, it's too long, people not gonna check on this. But guess what we did? And certainly it's reaching his base. He's not doing it and denouncing his affiliation with Project 2025 because liberals start talking about it. No, it's because his people Republicans started talking about it and disagreeing with this. So, but never ever dare to separate it and take it as seriously as you can. Hence, I don't support the word weird, because this is more than weird. This is dangerous. Dangerous and weird are not same, very different. So let's call a thing, okay? So in international news, a lot of news are about Venezuela. So there are protesters and protests in Venezuela today, overnight. They started yesterday after the results have been announced that Maduro, the dictator, has won. Meanwhile, all the exit polls have showed him losing by 30 points, and somehow they said he won by 51%, and exit polls show him losing with 31%, and the counterpart actually winning. So it's been a disaster pretty much on international front as well, because the dictators have called in to congratulate Maduro on his win. Dictators like in China, Xi Jinping. So China's foreign ministry called for respecting the choice of the people who re-elected Maduro as their president for the third time. Now, I shared it with you yesterday that since 2019, Russia has been heavily involved in Venezuela. The Putin sent Wagner Group, the brutal Wagner Group that is infamous for killing a lot of people with a hammer in Ukraine and worldwide, because they're employed in Africa as well. He sent that group to literally crack skulls in Venezuela to help Maduro stay in power. For that, Maduro has transferred the gold reserves to Moscow, that are the headquarters of Venezuela's gold reserves are in Moscow. And I shared it yesterday. I shared it in an article. I shared it in a newsletter. Please go ahead, read it. So, earlier, 9 Latin American countries, including Guatemala, Argentina, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Dominican Republic, and Uruguay demanded a review of the elections in Venezuela. But meanwhile, and we're going to talk more about the international diplomatic response. Yesterday at the National Security Council meeting with senior administration officials, they shared that they're asking Venezuela to provide exact details on what went down, to compare it to the exit polls, and to allow international community to investigate the issue. Now, President Biden spoke about it. The statement, NSC issued a statement, which I will read out to you as well in a second. But meanwhile, people poured onto the streets. And I want to guide you as to what happened since the election results were announced yesterday. So people poured on the streets, and police was advised to start assaulting people, right, for gathering and protesting, which started peacefully, which is still. And look what police did. Policemen and policewomen started undressing themselves, removing their attire to stand with protesters. Take a look. And so this continued overnight. Ultimately resulting in this. And it is still ongoing. So also another human factor, right? Because if you know me, I really like talking about humans rather than the governments. Because humans make a government and make a nation, which is way stronger than any government. What's interesting that during the protests, people started stealing stuff, right? And so what they did, Venezuelan protests started returning looted goods to the stores, saying, quote, "We don't want any thieves here. We want freedom." So take a look at the folks returning what others have stolen.
¡Ojo! Lo que no hizo la guardia lo está haciendo el pueblo.
So I came back and returned. I guess you watched the video? Yeah? Thank you. Thank you for watching. So you saw people returning looted goods, which is really speaks about the nation, really speaks about the intention behind the protest. They don't want to kill anybody. They just want freedom. They just want the leader they elected to lead the nation and live in democracy, which is quite a beautiful thing. So also, next thing, Venezuelan army captains Javier and Juan Carlos Nieto Quintero send a message to all the soldiers. It's time to make the right decisions at a historical moment. It's evident we have a new president-elect. Time for the army to intervene. So the army captains or captains, yes, they are encouraging fellow Venezuelan army to intervene and go against the protesters. So we have to see how that will play out, because they do recognize Maduro as their leader. Now, Colombia announced that it won't recognize Maduro as president-elect until he provides an audit of all the votes in every district and makes it public to the world. Also, what I wanted to share was breaking news as I just went live. Peru officially recognized Gonzalez, his counterpart, Maduro's counterpart, as president-elect of Venezuela. Foreign Minister Javier Gonzalez Olachea made the announcement. So Peru went all the way in and recognized the other counterpart, Gonzalez, as a winner and the president-elect. And so, statement from NSC, National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson on Venezuela. She said, the United States has been closely monitoring Venezuela's presidential election that took place on Sunday, July 28th, and the subsequent announcements by Venezuela's National Electoral Council. We continue to call for Venezuela's electoral authorities to release full, transparent, and detailed voting results, including by polling station. So then, President Biden has spoken today to the president of Brazil. And so first, in the White House press briefing, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked to elaborate on that meeting, which she said, listen, we will provide you with the detailed readout, which I have for you, but first listen to her.
Let me just say, and I think we shared this with all of you, that the president was going to be speaking with the president of Brazil. And so they're going to discuss a number of issues. And like we normally do, we will certainly have a readout for all of you. So look, we are, as it relates to Venezuela, we are obviously in the process of evaluating the Maduro and his representatives due next, and we will respond accordingly. And so while I have nothing to announce today as it relates to sanctions or moving forward, we will continue to assess our calibrated sanctions policy towards Venezuela.
So I have the readout for you. President Biden spoke with President Lula. He thanked him for his leadership on Venezuela. The two leaders agreed on the need for immediate release of full, transparent, and detailed voting data at the polling station level for the Venezuelan electoral authorities. The two leaders shared the perspective that the Venezuelan election outcome represents a critical moment for democracy in the hemisphere, and they pledged to remain in close coordination on the issue. The presidents also committed to deepen cooperation between our two countries, US and Brazil, on accelerating the clean energy transition and to continue advancing the Partnership for Workers' Rights, which they launched together on the margins of last year's United Nations General Assembly to empower workers and combat some of the most significant issues facing working people. So this is on Venezuela. Of course, we want to monitor it. I will report on it. No, it's not directly White House, but it's related to the White House, but it is, all of it is related, as I usually say. Hence, I include the international segment here because White House is very much involved in such things. As much as, let's talk about Ukraine real quick. So, USAID or USAID, Agricultural Resilience Initiative Ukraine, which they call Agri Ukraine, launched 2 years ago, right? And so it has now successfully mobilized over $510 million for Ukrainian farmers. And so the money came from donors and private sector partners to enhance Ukraine's agricultural output and mitigate global food insecurity. The US government has contributed $350 million to this initiative, which has supported more than 14,000 Ukrainian farmers with essential resources like seeds, fertilizers, and financing. Despite challenges posed by Russia's war, Agri-Ukraine has enabled significant agricultural production and export development, including the establishment of alternative export routes, and contributing over $17 billion to Ukraine's economy. Which is a huge thing. If you think about war, if you think about Ukraine actually being the export leader when it comes to food for Africa and for other countries as well. So the initiative's funding exceeded the initial goal by threefold, with new partnerships continuing to bolster its efforts. And so lastly, let's talk about Indo-Pacific. And by the way, at the end, I have some fun videos for you that, yes, are politics related, but they're fun. Some is creepy, some are creepy, some are fun. All are good, all are positive. So in the Pacific, today on July 30th, let's take a picture. I have a picture for you here. So was a fourth Philippines-United States 2+2 ministerial dialogue was held in Manila for the first time. Secretary of Foreign Affairs Manalo and Secretary of National Defense Teodoro joined U.S. Secretary of State Blinken and U.S. Secretary of Defense Austin, who discussed ways to enhance their bilateral alliance and economic cooperation. Key outcomes included reaffirming the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty and the 1998 Visiting Forces Agreement and 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, committing $500 million in foreign military financing to modernize the armed forces of Philippines and the Philippine Coast Guard, establishing the roles, missions, capabilities, working group, and implementing the Philippine Security Sector Assistance Roadmap for defense modernization, increasing investment in EDCA locations, and planning for the finalization of the General Security of Military Information Agreement, and advancing cybersecurity and maritime cooperation with Japan and Australia. So why does this matter? It matters because we're talking about Indo-Pacific. We're talking about China's threat, not just to Taiwan, but to any country within the Indo-Pacific. And hence, our Secretary of State, Blinken, and Secretary of Defense, Austin, have spent so much time traveling for the last 6 months, at least, to the Indo-Pacific, closing security agreements and partnership collaborations to ensure China is not provoked and also China is not enticed to invade or cause any disturbances in the region. So also Secretary Blinken was in China and talking directly to Chinese counterparts as well as military leaders to have direct conversation with the U.S. military to ensure there is no misunderstanding, there is no provocation that is not intended by either party. So hence it is very important that these leaders have met, and that Philippines is the direct partner with the United States. And if you recall yesterday's video where Putin said that we're in the midst of Cold War and U.S. is putting nuclear missiles in Philippines that will reach us within 10 minutes and also in Europe. So he's accounting for Russia being attacked from both sides, right? So this is all important to stabilize, not to provoke, but to stabilize. Okay? So having said that, a bit about Israel. Turkish President Erdogan directly threatened Israel today. I mentioned that Israel has conducted an attack. I quoted Vice President Harris, who addressed that. If you haven't watched it, please go to the beginning of the stream and listen to that. But Erdogan has directly threatened Israel today. This is the leader of Turkey. Now, Turkey is still in NATO, mind you. He said, quote, "We will send Turkish forces if Israel decides to invade Lebanon," end quote. This is still a partner in NATO. Israel conducted a strike against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and White House is still optimistic, sharing with us today about a diplomatic solution. They said we have to be positive-minded and thinking, and we do see our peace agreement or any agreement with initially with Gaza and of course with Hamas to have some type of peace and go to the stage 1 out of 4, which would mean the return of the hostages that are held now by Hamas. So again, we'll monitor it, we will track it, and certainly, you know, even what international leaders say, I think it's important for you to know. So hence I share it with you. Okay. Now, I promised something fun and creepy. So first, let's go creepy. There is a pack. It's called Won't Pack Down. And they sort of had a creepy ad for Kamala Harris. Take a look.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start. If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more involved. When you have sexual intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
My son monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That's true, you can look it up.
Don't you think that's normal?
Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November. We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
Creepy but effective. Okay, I think it is. And now, as we're still considering, or our VP is considering her VP pick, here's Josh Shapiro playing basketball at a school in Pennsylvania. Take a look. I don't think JD Vance can do that. I don't think so. I don't even think Pants could do that. And now Tim Walz is really growing on me. So he recorded an ad, sort of a weird ad, with his daughter, because he passed a regulation in Minnesota, he's governor of Minnesota, that is directing drivers to be hands-free, meaning not to touch their phone, not to do anything but driving. And so his daughter is helping him to record this social media ad. Take a look.
Hi, Minnesota. Governor Walz here, along with
Hope.
We're making sure we remind all of you hands-free driving starts on the 1st of August. We want to make sure our teen drivers are not texting and...
No. I think it's actually mostly bald men.
Cut. All right, once again, Minnesotans, we're here making sure millennials are putting down the phone and
I think it's actually adults, Dad. Like older people like you.
cut.
Hey guys, this is Hope Walls and I'm here with my dad, Governor Walls, and we're just here talking about the new hands-free law, and I'm just gonna show him how to prop his phone up so it's not in his hand and he can still see his navigation. All right, just like this.
Cut. Hey, Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz here. Governor Walz here trying to get rid of a child for anyone. On the 1st of August, Minnesota's new law is hands-free, making sure teens aren't Snapchatting.
I think it's everything, like texting, calling, like it's all hands-free, not just Snapchat, Dad.
All right, cut. One more time. Turn it down.
Why?
We're making a distracted driving video and you have the radio up too loud. Hey, Minnesota, Governor Walz here along with Hope, who listens to the radio too loudly. Well, it's a distracted driving video we're trying to make.
slow-mo.
Hey.
Keep both hands on the wheel, phone out of sight, out of mind.
Good advice. You are ready for college.
Cut.
So make sure when you get in your car,
Your hands free.
in states that have hands-free driving, we reduced fatalities and accidents by over 15%. We want to make sure that everybody gets home safely. Hope, any advice for Minnesotans?
What he said.
It's not worth it, Minnesota. Put the phone down. It's the law of the land. More importantly, it's going to keep Minnesotans safe.
I'm glad I get to drive on the roads with this law in effect.
That's so sweet. I mean, it took me 2 minutes. It is sweet. So sweet. Now, talking about sweet. If you know, JFK's only grandson, Jack Schlossberg, is pretty active online. And lately he joined as a reporter for Vogue, as a political reporter. And so he records videos on social media explaining what is going on the political scene. And so yesterday he posted a video, which is 37 seconds, but you might recognize some few actors that joined him this time. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm here with two amazing gentlemen. The second gentleman, Doug, and the original gentleman, Dave. And
Hi.
I invented a game and I wanted to see if they would play it with me.
Go.
It's called Condiment or Sauce. Okay, ketchup.
Condiment. Food group.
Good point.
Oh.
Sauce. Ranch dressing.
Salad dressing. It's a food. What is it?
No, wrong.
Sauce?
Condiment.
Condiment. No.
Barbecue sauce.
It's sauce.
Right.
I'll try to squeeze into it.
And one of the senior staffers just gathered.
So he joined the Harris campaign event. He also recorded how he was standing in line to take a picture. So I guess he joined our second gentleman on his campaign tour. So we will monitor it and we'll share more information on that as well. As you know, he is all over Massachusetts. So I guess that's exactly where it happened. If you think about Kennedy's location-wise, that fits. So that's it from me for today. You survived it. We all survived it. So if you can, please go subscribe. Free, onest.substack.com. You get your news, entire email with all the actual news every night before you go to bed, after work. Or if you want to read it in the morning, please do. And if you watch on YouTube, Onest, Onest Network on YouTube, please subscribe in case the platform acts does a number on me and we can get connected. So I would love to stay connected. If you're on Instagram, it's Onest Press, same as on X. On Instagram, I just created a new TikTok thing, so you can follow me there too. I'm just really trying to have access on different platforms. So in case either, escalates and bans me for whatever reason, we still stay in touch because actual news matter and you matter. I'd love to report it for you. So thank you so much for joining me. We're going to see each other tomorrow, per usual, at a live stream. And until then, stay calm, cool, collected. It's not all as bad. It's actually good. Okay? Good night. Thank you for watching.